Hi there, it's me, Amanda Marie, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. So today, I'm going to talk about my speed dating approach to finding my therapist, Michael, the rave, therapist extraordinaire, which is what I call him. He knows about it. It's fine. Anyway, my approach that I took, I feel is a little unique and maybe a little different from what most people do to find their therapist. So I thought I'd share it with you and hopefully it'll help you if you are looking for that sort of thing. So, a little bit of context. Before I was diagnosed with leukemia in 2018, I had already been thinking about finding someone to talk to just for myself. I had figured out throughout the course of 2017 and the beginning of 2018 that I had always had some form of very intense anxiety. And once I was able to identify it, I started thinking about trying to find someone to help me cope with those things. Fast forward to the end of 2018, after being diagnosed and realizing that after all the adrenaline wore off and after all the excitement and the newness of it all wore off, that I needed someone to talk to because it was a lot. It was a lot for me to face my mortality and face all of these new challenging things. So I got to work. The first thing I did was I went on psychologytoday.com because I had heard that they had some sort of search feature. And what I did was I filtered first and foremost the type of insurance that I had to make sure that they would be in network. And the second thing I did was I listed out the specialties that I wanted them to focus on. So for me, it was mostly anxiety and depression. And if they had some sort of background in working with people with chronic illness, that was a plus. But I knew that I really needed to handle those main problems. The next thing that I focused on was their location. At the time, I was on disability, so I didn't really leave my house. But when I did, I wanted to make sure that if I were going to therapy, I wouldn't have to trek really, really far. And of course, it was 2018, and while there were already, telehealth options, I wanted someone that I could physically go to. The act of driving to that place and feeling separated from my home and this safe space was really important to me. So once I identified that those were the key things that I needed, I booked 5 appointments with 5 different therapists. And each experience taught me something different, and this is what I want to share with you. So the first therapist, as she was kind of doing the initial consultation, she had a long list of things that I had to fill out of what I wanted to address. And it was kind of like one of those surveys where you kind of bubble in, what it is that you want to talk about. And as I was going through my responses with her, and as I was explaining to her my recent cancer diagnosis and all of the things that I wanted to talk about, she kept saying, "Oh, honey." And that wasn't really something that I wanted. I realized really fast that I didn't want a therapist to react that way to what I was saying. The further that I went into my diagnosis story with her, the more she seemed almost like she was pitying me for the position that I was in. And I didn't want to spend the entire time talking to her, consoling her about what I had gone through. And so I quickly ruled her out. It was also a plus because she was pretty far. She was probably the furthest appointment that I had made. And so that also factored in. The second one sounds kind of awful, but the second therapist that I auditioned or that I went to, I also went through the pre, consultation process where I filled out the forms and I did all of these things before going in. And when I got there, this sounds so bad. When I got there and I met the therapist that I would be working with, her voice was so shrill and so grating to me. Like, she was so kind. She was so nice, but her voice was like nails on a chalkboard to me. And I, the whole time, was so distracted by the sound of her voice that I couldn't focus. And so coming out and getting back into my car, I thought to myself, is this someone that I could listen to? And is this someone that I can talk to? And ultimately I decided, no, I absolutely cannot spend an hour a week listening to her talk to me. I would not be able to receive the information that she was giving to me, because although her manner of delivery would have been right, the vocal boat that it was shipped to me on would not be able to dock at my harbor. Like, I would just not be able to mentally take it. Additionally, the parking situation was really stressful. Like, it was off of a main road that also had like a merging lane right before it. And so to get into the parking lot and then to also get out of the parking lot would probably be the most stressful part of that whole experience. And I wanted to talk to her about my anxiety, but not because getting into the building caused me anxiety. So, ruled out. The two in the middle, numbers 3 and number 4, they didn't have that much availability, and one of them didn't have that much availability, and the other one just never responded to me. So immediately out of the question. If I can't get a hold of you, how am I going to be your patient? And the final person that I met, therapist number 5 in my speed dating process, was Michael. And I walked in and I was a little skeptical at first because the building that he was in at the time was a little weird. Like, the stairs were a little creaky and it was a little sketchy, but I had trust. It was definitely a better parking situation than some of the others. So I went in and I realized that as I was going through the initial consultation, we just clicked. We had really good banter. We had a really good rapport, and I felt really comfortable talking to him, which was something that I wasn't expecting, because of the 5, I think maybe 3 of them were women and 2 of them were men. And I had assumed that I would feel more comfortable talking to another woman about my own insecurities and about my own experiences. And I found that I actually felt and still feel really comfortable talking to Michael about anything that comes up. So I also realized that in his approach with me, the way that he was asking me questions and the way that he was responding to the things that I was telling him were not just conversational, but he asked leading questions that helped me to realize some things about myself that I had not considered. And that was something that I really wanted. That was the experience that I was hoping for, to have someone that I can feel comfortable talking to, who would help me reflect on the things that I needed to reflect so that I could come to the conclusion that I needed to at the end of the session. And so in the end, of course, I picked Michael, and I called all the others to let them know that, sorry, they were not receiving the golden ticket and not going to Hollywood. I think, based on this, for you, you should make a list. And this will probably be my advice for anyone who is looking to find a therapist. Make a list. Make a list of what is important for you. Is it to make sure that the person is close to your home or on your commute to work? Is it whether you feel comfortable with someone who identifies as male or female or non-binary? Is it somebody that can be a compassionate listener or somebody who can be authoritative? Or is it a mix of both? Is it someone that can, give you the oh honey response that you want, or somebody that can, command your attention and make you feel safe? What is it that you want to focus on? And then, do you feel comfortable with them enough to feel like they can grow with you? I have to say that Michael has helped me through a lot of the things in the past 3.5 years. Things that I came in knowing that I need help with, and things that bubbled up throughout the course of my time with him that I never realized. And so I believe that I made the right choice, because I knew that not only had he helped me with the main items that I needed him to help me figure out, like how to cope with my anxiety and how to cope with my depression, but also how to grow with me throughout all of the things that have happened since. And I think that's really, really important. And I think that because of this, you know, it made this whole crazy, wild process of finding him worth it. But at the end of the day, I think that you are the only person that will know what is best for you. And so I'd also like to remind you that with any doctor, any medical professional, if you do not feel comfortable with them, if you do not feel like they are listening to you, or that you're feeling seen or heard, don't be afraid to ask for someone else. Don't be afraid to ask for a second opinion or to advocate for yourself and how you feel. This goes with your own mental health and also with your health in general. A story that I'll get to eventually is that before I was diagnosed with leukemia, I had 7 other misdiagnoses. And I knew the entire time that what people were telling me wasn't right. It didn't feel right. And so I kept finding other doctors, other specialists, other XYZ, until I found someone who would listen to me. And I took that same approach when it came to finding my therapist. And I think it's really important that you advocate for yourself in that space, because nobody else is going to understand how you're feeling except for you. So that's my speed dating approach. I hope it helps you as much as it helped me. I love you. Thank you for being here, and I hope you come back. Mwah.